Bonjour et bienvenue dans cette nouvelle vidéo. Nous allons parler des verbes pronominaux. On dit un verbe pronominal, mais des verbes pronominaux. Today we'll be talking about something in French called les verbes pronominaux or pronominal verbs. Now we say pronominal verbs are also called reflexive verbs. Now in the past time, when conjugating, we've always had subjects whose actions were performed on other things, other people, other objects, and the likes. But this time around, we want to talk about subjects that will perform actions on themselves. That's the sort of thing we'll be talking about today. So we see les verbes pronominaux. That's why in French, les verbes pronominaux, also known as les verbes réfléchis. We say réfléchis because the actions they perform come right back to themselves. Now, how do we recognize such verbs in French? These verbs, pronominal verbs, as we call them, will always have the pronoun se in front of them. Se in front of them. Either se or s apostrophe depending on the spelling of the verb. So if the verb starts with a silent h, for example, we're not able to have the full se. That's why we have to do elision. Remember elision? So now in this case we have to have s apostrophe instead of se when the verb starts with a vowel or a silent h. So let's have a look at a few examples of pronominal verbs or les verbes pronominaux. They are very common now. A few common ones that I want to start with today will be, for example, se laver. Now, in French, we have the verb laver, and then we have se laver. So, se laver, because of se in front of it, it indicates that that verb is a pronominal verb. Now, the action of laver is going to come right back to the speaker. So, se, in a nutshell, refers to oneself. Oneself. So, se laver is the first one. And then we have se promener. Se promener. And then we have s'appeler. Now it's s'appeler because, as I said before, the spelling, if it starts with a vowel sound, you don't use the full se, you use s apostrophe. So that's why we say s'appeler. Now in French you have appeler and s'appeler, two different things. S'appeler is pronominal, and appeler is just a normal verb. So that was s'appeler. Another one. Se décider. Se décider. S'habiller. S'habiller. Same scenario. S'habiller starts with a silent H. So we don't say se habiller. We say s'habiller because of the sound, the vowel sound. Elision. Se demander. Se demander, se raser, se raser, se réveiller, se réveiller, s'arrêter, s'arrêter, same idea. Arrêter starts with a vowel sound, so we don't use the full se, we use s apostrophe again. S'arrêter, s'habituer, s'habituer. Now I've placed in parentheses because this verb takes the preposition when you use it. So it's just there so that you can know how to use it, but I'm not going to talk about that in this text. I'm not going to talk about that in this lesson. We'll just focus on the pronominal part of it. S'habituer, se coucher, se coucher, se dépêcher, se dépêcher, se maquiller, se maquiller. Now that we have enough examples, that was just to give you an idea of a few common pronominal verbs in French, les verbes pronominaux en français. This time around, let's have a look at conjugating them. Now, we want to look at two different tenses today. We want to look at les verbes pronominaux in le présent de l'indicatif and le passé composé. Those are the two tenses we want to look at pronominal verbs under today. So, first one is le présent de l'indicatif. We're not going to go into much details as to what this tense means because we've already covered that in previous lessons. If you forget, just follow the sign up there and you can catch up with the lesson. So, let's have a look at, for instance, se laver. We want to conjugate se laver in le présent de l'indicatif. So, that will be je me lave. Now, before when we used to conjugate, we had one subject, one verb. But this time around, we have one subject, one object, and a verb. That's the whole idea of pronominal verbs, because the action is coming back to the subject. So, je me lave. We're conjugating se laver. Je me lave. Tu te laves. Il se lave. Elle se lave. Nous nous lavons. Vous vous lavez. Il se lave. Elle se lave. Now, if you pay attention, if you've been following, we have nous, nous. Now, they're not the same thing. The first nous is a subject, and the second nous is an object. So we are saying nous, nous lavons. Now, some students ask me, why is it we have two nous? Why can't we just use one nous? If we use one nous, that will be only the subject. It won't be a pronominal verb. This is one of the characteristics of a pronominal verb. It has two nouns. When we're talking about nouns or vous, there are two, not one. So, nous, nous lavons, vous, vous lavez, il se lave, elle se lave. Now, let's have a look at another verb in le présent de l'indicatif. Let's have a look at s'habiller. S'habiller, for example. Now, s'habiller, as you can see, starts with a vowel. That's why we have the S apostrophe. So, we now go to conjugate. We say, je m'habille. Now, we should have said, je me habille. But because of the vowel sound of me and the vowel sound of habille, the E from me is removed and replaced with an apostrophe. That's why we say, je m'habille. Tu t'habilles. Same idea. Tu, vowel sound. Habille, vowel sound. Remove the E from tu. Replace it with an apostrophe. So, tu t'habilles. Il s'habille. Elle s'habille. Nous nous habillons. Vous vous habillez. Il s'habille. Elle s'habille. Now, that was le présent de l'indicatif. Now, let's have a look at le passé composé. Le passé composé. Remember, in French, to conjugate in the passé composé, you either use être or avoir. But with pronominal verbs, they are all conjugated with être. All pronominal verbs in French are conjugated in the passé composé using the auxiliary verb être. So if you have forgotten, we're talking about je suis, tu es, that sort of thing. We're looking at être to conjugate in le passé composé. So let's have a look at the same verb we started with before, se laver. Now, se laver in the passé composé will be je me suis lavé. Je me suis lavé. Tu t'es lavé. Now, tu t'es lavé is just a contracted form of tu te es lavé. Tu te es lavé becomes tu t'es lavé because of elision. Tu t'es lavé. Il se est lavé becomes il s'est lavé. And then we have elle se est lavé as well becomes elle s'est lavé. Now, when conjugating with être in le passé composé, remember that the verb agrees in gender and number. So we have to put an E when we're talking about a feminine subject. And then when we're talking about a plural subject, we have to indicate that with an S. Remember that from être. So, elle s'est lavée. There are two E's. The first E is just the normal participe passé, and that second E is telling us that we are talking about a feminine subject. Let's go to the first person plural, which is nous. So, nous nous sommes lavés. Nous nous sommes lavés. S, because we're talking about more than one. Vous vous êtes lavés. More than one as well. So, S again. Now, ils se sont lavés. S again because we're talking about more than one. Il au pluriel. Now, elles se sont lavées. We're talking about feminine plural, so we take an E to show that it's feminine and an S to show that it's in a plural. So let's have a look at se coucher in the passé composé. Je me suis couché. Tu t'es couché. Il s'est couché. Elle s'est couchée. Nous nous sommes couchés. Vous vous êtes couchés. Ils se sont couchés. Elles se sont couchées. elles se sont couchées, ils se sont couchés. Now, pay special attention to the endings. Whenever I'm talking about any of those subjects in the plural, I will have to indicate an S. And if that subject I'm talking about is feminine, I will have to indicate an E before my S as a plural. Now, let's have a look at a few sentences. Let's have a look at a few sentences in whatever tense. We can look at it in whatever tense, but we want to look at pronominal verbs, les verbes pronominaux, using different tenses. First sentence is je me lave avant d'aller au travail. Je me lave avant d'aller au travail. So that's se laver. I've just conjugated and I formed the sentence with it. Je me lave avant d'aller au travail. Second sentence. Elle s'est habillée en mini-jupe pendant la soirée. Elle s'est habillée en mini-jupe pendant la soirée. L'enfant se couche très tôt. L'enfant se couche très tôt. Vous êtes-vous rasé ce matin? Vous êtes-vous rasé ce matin? Now, vous êtes-vous rasé? Now, normally I would have said vous êtes rasé ce matin. That's another way to say it. That's with a form of intonation. We discussed that in one of our previous lessons, intonation. Now I'm using what you call inversion. So that's how you would do inversion with a pronominal verb like what I just did. So, vous êtes rasé in inversion is vous êtes-vous rasé. Vous êtes-vous rasé ce matin? You get it? It sounds a bit strange, but that's correct. That's correct. You get used to it the more you use it. The more you form sentences in the pronominal, inversion, or statements, or any other types, the more you get used to it. Let's have a look at one more. Les filles se dépêchent pour aller en vacances. Les filles se dépêchent pour aller en vacances. Now that's it. So we're talking about pronominal verbs today. Les verbes pronominaux en français, ou disons les verbes réfléchir en français aussi. Pronominal verbs or reflexive verbs. Now to identify them, they will always have se, meaning oneself, before them, or s apostrophe. That's how you identify a pronominal verb. It's very easy now. We've learned how to conjugate them in the present tense, opposition de l'indicatif. We've also learned how to conjugate them in le passé composé, following the rules that when you conjugate in the passé composé using être, a verb must agree in gender and number with the subject, showing E for feminine, showing S for plural. Thank you. Have a nice day and thanks for watching. Au revoir et à bientôt.